In 2013, Sony launched the first ever full-frame mirrorless camera and started the mirrorless revolution. Well, exactly 10 years later, Sony is all set to start another revolution. Few days back, Sony announced their first camera with a global shutter. No, we are not here to discuss or talk about the specs and features of that new camera. We're here to talk about what a global shutter is, how it works, and what are its advantages and disadvantages. Well, in order to do that, we must know what is a rolling shutter, which we've been using all this while. So, welcome back to Pixel Village, and I am Radha Krishnan. Well, what I have in front of me is an LED panel. I want to compare this to a sensor. Each LED here, let's say it represents 1 pixel, and this is our imaginary shutter. Okay, the shutter sits right in front of the sensor, and when you click the button, according to the shutter speed which is set in the camera, the shutter will start moving like this. Imagine you've set 1/50th of a second. This whole process will take 1/50th of a second, which actually means that the camera will register the image 1 line at a time. Whereas a camera with a global shutter, there is no shutter at all. The sensor is either in a full on mode or a full off mode. So when it's on, it is receiving the information. It's already recording the information. And after the stipulated amount of time, which is decided by the shutter speed, it shuts down. So imagine 1/50th of a second, it means it will come on and shuts down 50 times in a second. The entire sensor will receive the information in one go, as against the sensor receiving the information 1 line at a time. Okay? Now, if I have to explain it let's say if I have to define it, a global shutter in a digital camera refers to a shutter mechanism where the camera sensor captures the entire image simultaneously, like this. Unlike the rolling shutter, which exposes different parts of the sensor, right, at different times. Now, in technical terms, a global shutter can be achieved either through an electronic shutter mechanism in CMOS sensors or with a mechanical shutter in some camera systems. In electronic global shutters, all pixels on the sensor starts and stops the exposure at the same time, and the readout is also simultaneous, thereby capturing the scene without any skew, wobble, or partial exposure effects that can be caused by rolling shutter. Now, how does that happen? Imagine this is how your rolling shutter is moving, and let's say you have a fast moving object which moves across your frame. Well, when you started the exposure, let's say your image is here. As you go down, the image will have moved to the other side of the sensor, correct? Now, when you shoot film, you must remember your shutter speed is very low, like 1/50th of a second, which is considered to be very low or very slow, right? So, during which time a fast moving subject or a fast panning camera can result in skewing the image while recording, correct? So that's also called as the yellow effect, the jello effect, So that's caused by it, whereas it completely is avoided in cameras with global shutter. This is an advantage when capturing images of fast-moving objects or in situations where camera is moving quickly. I just explained to you why and how. Global shutters and rolling shutters each have their advantages and are better suited for different applications. Let's look at some comparisons. advantage of a global shutter: absolutely no distortion. Well, a global shutter captures, like I told you, I'm repeating again, the entire frame at once, eliminating rolling shutter distortion. And this is crucial when photographing, filming fast-moving objects, or let's say during quick camera movements, avoiding effects like wobble, skew, or yellow effect. We all know these terminologies, right? We are all victims of that. So now you have a solution. The second advantage of a global shutter is best suited for fast action. The concept of flash sync speed is now gone. You can shoot with a flash at any shutter speed that you want. For example, the maximum speed that is possible with the new Sony camera is 1/80,000th of a second, thereby enabling you to shoot 120 frames of raw images in a second. When you work with flashes, in the early days, you had a limitation. Like I told you some time back, you had to work with one speed or within a range of shutter speeds in order to sync your flash. Well, it was subsequently in the later years overcome by HSS, high-speed sync flashes. Now, you can use any flash. It doesn't have to be a high-speed sync flash or flashes without short duration possibilities. You can actually freeze action or work with any flash at any shutter speed. That will be a great advantage to people working outdoors with flashlights. So, global shutters work better with flash photography, especially at high speeds, because the entire screen is exposed at the same moment. For scientific and industrial applications, for example, the global shutter will be best suited there. Precise timing is critical in scientific research and in certain industrial applications, making global shutter indispensable for accuracy, according to me. Now, instead of telling you the disadvantages of global shutter, let me tell you the advantages of rolling shutter. Cost and complexity. Well, the first camera itself is an example. At about $6,000, that camera is pretty expensive. The cameras with rolling shutters are typically less expensive and less complex to manufacture. This makes them relevant in consumer-grade cameras and smartphones. The next big advantage of rolling shutter is that you can have sensors with very high resolution and very high sensitivity. Why? Because the way the data is transferred to the system is line by line. I just showed you. It's line by line. So the system gets enough time to transfer that line. Of course, the 1/50 is same in a rolling shutter scenario and a global shutter scenario. But here, since the data is, transferred line by line, you have much lesser data to be transferred. You can have more pixels packed in that line. One, second, it can also have higher sensitivity. Whereas your system will come under a lot of stress if you're capturing, let's say, a 60 megapixel in one go, in one frame. So initially, you will see lower resolutions sensors available with global shutter. And of course, as technology progresses, they probably will bring higher resolutions in future. The third advantage of the rolling shutter is less power consumption. They generally consume less power compared to global shutters, which is beneficial for, let's say, battery-operated devices like mobile phones, drones. Why? Are on mirrorless cameras. Less noise and more dynamic range. Less noise in the sense, because you are scanning line by line, like I told you, the processor, the system gets more time to take the information in, process it well, receive it well, and things like that, instead of receiving a sensor full of information in one go. Rolling shutter CMOS sensors can have reduced noise and increased dynamic range due to the more advanced development and optimization of their technology. To sum it up, global shutter is typically chosen for the ability to accurately capture fast-moving objects without distortion, while rolling shutter is often favored in consumer devices at lower cost. I hope this simple demonstration of global shutter versus rolling shutter, it's how it works and the advantages and disadvantages was very clear. Well, if yes, I think what you should do next is to start saving, because every brand is getting ready to launch their next generation of mirrorless cameras with global shutters. Hope we will be able to get one very soon. Try, test and review for you. Stay tuned. Bye for now.